Hey, today we are going to look inside the Prophet 08. The Prophet 08 is an 8-voice polyphonic analog synthesizer built around 2008, so this one's about 17 years old probably. We're going to open it up and take a look inside. See, last night I was having some problems with one of the voices. When I powered it on, one of the voices wasn't working, voice 6. So let's see if we can reproduce that problem. We'll hold down program, push yes and no simultaneously to get the basic patch. And now let's see voice 1. We actually got to turn some things on. Voice 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, silent. 7, 8, 1. One nice feature of the Prophet 8 is it has these LEDs over here that tell you which voice is currently active. 4, 5, 6. Okay, this was happening last night as well. I'm not too worried because I left it on for a few hours, switched some patches around, and then it started working again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, still not working. 7, 8. It looks like everything is Phillips head screwdrivers, so it should be a pretty simple operation opening this thing up. We're going to start on the top panel here. I've disconnected everything. The knobs seem to pull off pretty easily. And then, so for the knobs, we can just put them all in a big cup. And for the screws, I'm going to use these cupcake cups. So every time the screw type changes, I'll put the new one on the bottom and I'll get a fresh one on top. And that way, when I reassemble it, I just go backwards in order and I don't get the screws mixed up. So here we go. So I pulled off all of the non-continuous knobs. These are the ones with the line on them, and taken the 4 long machine screws out of the top. The continuous knobs I'll do next. They don't have a line on top. And the other one that's a little bit different is this master volume knob, which is a little harder to remove, and it's silver. To make things easy to remember, the continuous encoders have these plastic pot heads, and the limited ones have these nice aluminum pot heads. Moving on to the back panel, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these shorter machine screws. So we'll move to the next cup. With that, the front panel is loose. Got to be kind of careful here. All these pots are still attached, and there are a couple ribbon cables attaching this. What we've got inside here looks incredibly simple and well laid out. For our mod wheels, we just have a 4-pin sort of Molex style connector here, and then just these 2 ribbon cables here that connect the top panel onto the main unit here. And for today, I think I'm going to focus on taking a look at the red circuit cards down here. I can see that they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 5, 6, which must be the 8 voices here. Interesting that the one I'm having trouble with is 6, which is the very last one. That Molex connector came right off. It's keyed, so that'll be easy to go back on. These ribbon cables on some of these old electronics, they come off really easily. I'm always worried about pulling them off because there's such small wires here, and if you pull on the wires here, it could very easily damage the connector. So I'm using just a simple pair of pliers to grab the corner of the plastic part here and just kind of ease it out there. Now we've got the front panel completely detached from the main body of the unit. It looks like I did not need to take off any of those knobs in order to get this detached. But it will allow me to get in here and do some good cleaning of the front panel itself. When I got this, there was a pretty thick layer of dust and cat hair on the top, and now with the knobs off, it'll be easier to kind of clean up here underneath them. Let's get you in here nice and close so you can kind of see what's going on. So here we have a main kind of controller card with the MIDI outputs back here. These are the 8 voices here, 1 through 8. And then over here we have the main output board where where the actual signal is brought to line level and sent out. It does say copyright 2007 on this, so maybe that is about the time this was made. It does mean that this is the original revision of the Prophet 8. And now I'm just going to take out this synthesizer board here and take a close look and inspect some of the components. The boards are held in with short sheet metal screws, this time in a non-anodized aluminum variety. Or sorry, steel, probably steel. I'm not a pro at these visual inspections, but I looked through all the components and really I don't see anything that looks like corrosion or whisker growth or anything like that. Nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and give this a nice clean with some denatured alcohol and make sure to let it dry completely, and I'll probably look at another card as well. Okay, so I've poured myself a couple ounces of denatured alcohol, and I'm just going to get this brush wet and go around the ICs, small circles, see if I can get anything loose. I'll hold the card at an angle so that the denatured alcohol drips down the board. Hopefully it helps kind of flush things out. I gave the board a once over, and I'm going to go over again, this time putting a little bit more alcohol on the brush and just really kind of trying to flush things out now that I've kind of loosened anything that might be there. Also, I want to point out that often there'll be some handwritten numbers on the board, usually with a Sharpie, and the denatured alcohol will dissolve that Sharpie mark. On this one, it was just written 1.5. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it did start to run off. But if you scrub that with the brush, it'll come off immediately. Usually you don't want to do that, so just kind of try to avoid the Sharpie marks if you can. So here I am with a really heavy amount of alcohol on the brush starting at the top. I'm going to work my way down, just kind of flush everything out, using up pretty much the rest of this alcohol that I have here. And this will all evaporate within a matter of a few hours for sure. Okay, that board is all cleaned off now. I'm just going to put it out to dry, and I think I'm going to move on to the front panel. I started here because this is where it seemed like the problem might be, but the front panel is where most dust and debris might come through, so it's always a good idea to clean that out. A little closer look at the circuit card here. It does appear to be a pretty simple circuit card. It's I believe it's simply two-sided. It's no additional layers in between, just front and back. Even these tiny little ICs at the bottom, everywhere it seems to go through on this side, it has a corresponding exit on the back. Just like the synthesizer card in the middle, these two cards for the front panel seem to be held on with these short machine screws. Now that I'm looking at it a little bit more closely, there's a significant amount of either corrosion or maybe additional flux or something like that on the backs of these cards here. So definitely worth cleaning up. So there are just two cards here for the front panel connected by one of these Molex connectors. I'm definitely going to disconnect that at least from one side so that I don't have two cards wobbling around. It'll be easier to handle and easier to clean, much less likely to actually damage anything. More of these short steel machine screws. Yeah, seem to be exactly the same. I removed that Molex connector and the screws holding this board on, and it just comes off very easily. And you'll see on the back here around some of these pots we have some discoloration that we'll be cleaning up. Hats off to Dave Smith Instruments. This is a really well assembled piece of hardware, and it's very easy to take apart and service. Something I want to point out is that oftentimes on buttons that are also LEDs, this little piece of plastic on top that helps diffuse the light is sometimes loose in the case, and when you flip the card over they all just fall out and go everywhere. But these are slightly higher quality, and they're actually physically attached, and so you don't have to worry about it falling apart when you tip it over. So that's really nice. Didn't have to be too careful when I removed that. I'm taking a close look at the card here. I don't see anything terribly odd. It does seem like some of the solder joints on this DIN connector here seem to be a little bit shy on the amount of solder. And I think that what I was seeing on the back is not corrosion, it's actually just a burnt flux or something of that nature. And also on the back here, the solder joints don't look 100% consistent. So it could be that the solder job here just isn't quite holding up. Nonetheless, I'm going to clean both sides of this card as well as the other one. I'm seeing the same thing on this card. The front side of the card looks really quite nice. The back side, however, to me it looks like the soldering iron was too hot, and some of the solder joints are a little bit inconsistent, I guess especially over here. But the other one, when I cleaned it up, it looked good. Got all the smoke stains off. It looks like the display here does come off with a few screws. It's connected with a single inline pin there, 1/10 of an inch spacing. But I'm not having any problems with the display, so I'm just going to leave it on there. Okay, the cards are all cleaned up. I'm going to stay away from the remaining 2 cards in the main part of the console, and I'm just going to clean up the top faceplate here. Now this is not electronic, so I'm not going to use alcohol on it. I'm just going to use a damp, warm rag and a dry rag to clean it up. That's the teardown and the cleanup. We're going to let everything dry, come back and button it back up.